thanks to all of the individuals and organizations that reached out in support of our firefighters. A lot of folks donated to the 100 Club, appropriate recipient of donations, but a number of organizations stepped up and did additional things as well. And we know that all of the surrounding fire departments and a lot of the fire departments around the state sent firefighters to Houston, and we, of course, kept our fire stations open while our firefighters were at the memorial service. But in addition, there were a lot of other services that people may not be aware of. For all of those out-of-towners, they had to stay someplace. The Hotel and Motel Association of Houston and SEMA, the Small Independent Motel Association, both provided rooms free of charge to a lot of those out-of-towners. It was a tremendous gift, really hundreds of room nights, and I want to say thank you specifically to both of those organizations. And in addition, I know there are still some organizations that are out fundraising, and as was mentioned earlier today, Captain Dowling still very, very ill in Memorial Hermann Hospital. To the items that I want to talk about today, I'm announcing the issuance of requests for qualifications for our One Bin for All program. That is the cutting-edge solution for what do we do with trash and recycling. Is there a way to essentially commoditize our solid waste stream and remove the constituent components more efficiently and effectively? We're inviting submittals now from qualified firms interested in providing residential municipal solid waste and recyclables processing in a one bin for all mode. This is as we've said, a first of its kind innovation that has the potential to revolutionize the way we handle trash and would allow us to achieve high volume recycling and waste diversion. I'm excited that we've reached this next milestone in our process, and am anxious to begin implementation. We have had preliminary discussions with a number of companies. I don't know how many will offer qualifications in this process, but I know there are a number of companies that are interested. Submissions are due August 22nd, and a pre-proposal conference to make sure that everyone who is interested in this has an opportunity to get all their questions answered will be held June 27th. In addition to the issuance of the RFQ, I want to announce another milestone, and that is I have selected someone to carry this project through, and that is ARA Deputy Director Don Pagel will be the new program manager of One Bin for All.
Back here.
Back here. Don's background in economic development, finance, and technology, along with his proven management skills and his knowledge of the city through his service in ARA, make him the perfect executive to lead this program, since it is a lot of new technology, an opportunity to move the city forward. It needed somebody who could devote his time and attention to making sure it happened. He'll join the One Bin for All leadership team, which includes Andy Inkin, Harry Hayes, the Solid Waste Director, and Laura Spangen, my Sustainability Director. But Don will be the go-to guy for any questions you may have about where we are on the One Bin technology. He has previously been a major element in the Administration and Regulatory Affairs Department, most recently in parking management, and he's made our parking management office more consumer friendly and really changed the mindset over there, where we begin to view parking as a tool of economic development rather than just something that, let's go out and throw a meter in front of something or try to figure out how many parking spaces we have. Excited about this step forward. Don't have anything really to report other than we look forward to receiving a number of submissions on our one bin for all. Now, what do you guys want to talk about?
Can you explain what is the one bin for all? What is that concept?
Today, we depend on each individual to make a choice about whether what they have is recyclable or it is trash and it should go into landfill. It's an imperfect way to do things. And I'm an avid recycler, but there are lots of times when I look at something I have in my hand and I can't decide if it's recyclable, and I'm trying to decipher the code on the box in front of me. This puts everything in the bin together and provides for an automated process to remove the items that can be recycled and have value. It allows, theoretically, it allows us to remove much more of the recyclables or reclaim much more of the recyclables in the process, and even a potential to create a fuel product at the end of it.
Mayor, in the budget hearings, the solid waste department talked about how they have a goal over the next 2.5 fiscal years to extend single stream citywide in addition to this year's expansion. Does that indicate any uncertainty that a viable proposal will come forward, that one bin for all will work as envisioned?
One bin for all wouldn't happen overnight. There would be a ramp-up period. I'm committed to recycling, and this is something that people are clamoring for. We're going to continue to invest in the current recycling technology until we can prove a replacement technology.
When is it projected to come online?
You know, it depends on the size of the operation, but you're 2 years, 2 years away.
So, I mean, if they're going to happen at the same time, wouldn't that, at least the last push for single stream, be made immediately redundant by this plant coming online?
No.
Well, why not? I mean, if they're
I
happening
still
at
have
the
to
same
have,
time.
okay, the expense in single stream, in our single stream recycling is the carts. I have to have the carts. If we went to a one bin for all, whether you had a green cart or a black cart, you have a cart. So it's not an investment that couldn't be recouped.
Man, we have a machine that's actually able
Okay,
to
you're
discern
looking
that.
puzzled.
Well, I mean, if it's one bin for all and someone already has the black bin, would the city then have just bought them a green bin for really no reason if it's all going to go in the same place?
We replace garbage bins on a regular basis, garbage carts. We just have an investment in carts.
Okay.
And they can be reprogrammed to a different use.
Okay.
Man, do we have a machine that can actually make the discern between those three elements? Do we actually have a machine that can separate it like that?
When I say it's cutting edge technology, it is, but it is technology that has worked on in small scale application. Our test is to see whether we can do it in a sufficient size to have an impact on a city the size of Houston, and so we want it replicable and scalable. And so we're taking different technology from different places, putting it together, and again, we think pushing the envelope of what people view as recycling and what the potential is for municipal solid waste streams around the country.
So you would sell that technology to other cities, municipalities, once you get it perfected?
Well, our goal is to work with a company, one of these companies that we hope will submit, where the risk is on their side, not on our side. I still have to pick up the trash, and we are going to still recycle. They have to come to the table with the technology and the plan and the financing to make it happen.
Mayor, with regard to the budget amendments, I realize you haven't had time to review all of them, but is it possible that council members are getting a little overeager with extra revenue this year and perhaps reaching a little too far?
You know, this was one of the lowest numbers of budget amendments that I can recall, and I'm appreciative of that. And a number of council members did not have any budget amendments, and I'm very gratified by that. We have a clear philosophical divide. There are council members that want to cut revenues, and there are council members who want to increase spending, some in the millions of dollars. Can't do both. And so we have, this next week, we will help try to sort some of that out and walk through these items.
Could we get your thoughts on a couple of there were a couple of groups that there was some overlap. Several people proposed raising the over 65 and disabled exemption. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the issue of tax relief for seniors is worthy of discussion, and I would be willing to have that conversation. But you cannot say, let's cut our tax revenues, and right now, the proposal that Mr. Sumner's talked about yesterday, we estimate would be a $6 million annual reduction in revenue. We can work to achieve that if that is the will of council, and I certainly am sympathetic to that. But you cannot at the same time do that and then put millions of dollars in extra spending. So we're going to have to decide what the highest priority is with all of us who will be making this decision around the council.
Another group.
And that was just one. There was one council member that had three, and each one of those would add millions of additional revenue cuts.
Another group of amendments that was brought up repeatedly was, that any revenue coming in above projections would either go to pensions or go to reserves and be set aside there. What are your thoughts on it?
Again, that is my preference. That's how I produce my budget. We are required to create an unallocated reserve of 5% of projected revenues over expenses. We, through mutual agreement between the mayor's office and the controller's office, set that target at 7.5%, and I respect that. And any amounts for our unallocated reserve from this current fiscal year, we only spent on non-recurring expenses, one-time expenditures. I believe that it's a fiscally conservative way to go into next fiscal year. While we are doing well, and certainly better than most other cities, I've always been a fan of budgeting conservatively, and I'm sympathetic to that. But again, if there is the budget is balanced today. If council members decide to do some tax relief, that will reduce revenues. They are going to have to cut spending. If, however, over the course of the year, revenues come in better than we expect, and we think we budget realistically, but you always want to come in under what your revenues are rather than over what your revenues are. The question becomes, what do you do with that? Our policy is that you can only spend that on unexpected revenue on non-recurring expenses. Again, a lot of the council members want to spend it on things that require personnel going forward.
But didn't your administration expand the library hours using those funds this year and put 3 HFD
We didn't use one-time funds. We waited until we could see the revenue increase being sustained. We baked that into the budget. The budget I presented has revenues to accommodate the return of all those library hours.
Okay. And
I'd be happy to delineate for you, if necessary, the one-time revenues we spent for one-time expenses, and we can lay that out for you if you're interested.
Okay. Real quick, the other two groups of things that came together: summer youth programs, deed restriction database. Those are sort of the other two things that multiple people brought up.
Deed restricted database comes up on a regular basis, and it's not a big ticket item, and it's something I'm in great sympathy with. I wanted to do it when I was a council member. It is well, they want two different things. One, they want the ability to easily check what deed restrictions are. And that's a little beyond the purview of what the city should be doing. but they also want an assistance program for neighborhoods that want to implement deed restrictions, where we have some kind of boilerplate deed restrictions. You sort of, you pick from column A or column B, depending on what you want to do. I'm in sympathy with that as well, but ultimately those decisions have to be made by the citizens. And those are things that we're gonna, I think we'll work through. They're not major budgetary items. After-school programs, the summer job programs, those are really big ticket items. They were, actually the council members acknowledged